Hey everybody, it's Miss Williams, and now we're starting a new unit on polynomials, and this is polynomial day 1. We're going to add, subtract, and multiply polynomials today. First we'll start with adding and subtracting. When you add and subtract polynomials, you just simply combine the like terms. So what is a like term? A like term is a term with the same variable with the same exponent. Okay, so 3x and 4y are not like terms because they have different variables, so you cannot put those two things together. Likewise, 4x and 2x squared are also not like terms because even though they have the same variable, the variables have different exponents. So you cannot put a 4x and a 2x squared together when you're adding and subtracting. Okay, so here's an example of adding. If I had 5x squared plus 7, that polynomial, and I'm going to add it to 3x plus 10. So I have a 5x squared, can't be put with anything else because there's not any other 5x, there's not any other x squared, so bring it down. I only have one term that has a x in it, and that's the 3x, so it just comes down. And then finally I have a constant that's a 7 and the negative 10, and I put those together and I get negative 3, and that's how I came up with that answer. Okay, here's an example of subtracting. So a little bit longer polynomials, 4x squared minus 2x plus 3 minus the polynomial of 6x squared plus 2x minus 3. So the first thing I got to do is put my like terms together. So I have a 4x squared and a 6x squared, a negative 2x and a positive 2x, and a negative 3 and a positive 3. But be careful now because I am subtracting. So subtraction sign needs to go in between those when you put them together. So actually, negative 4x squared minus 6x squared actually gives me negative 2x squared. Negative 2x minus 2x actually gives me negative 4x. And then 3 minus negative 3 is actually going to give me 6. Okay, so be careful when it's subtracting that you pay attention that you have to subtract every time you combine those like terms. Finally, when you multiply polynomials, you do not have to have like terms to multiply polynomials. You simply multiply coefficients and add exponents. Multiply the coefficients, or the numbers in front of the letters or the variables, and add the exponents. So here's an example. We have two examples of these. The first one is 3x times x squared plus 2x minus 3. So I have to give the 3x to everything inside the parentheses, not just the term that has the x in it, but everything. Alright? So 3x times x squared is, I'm going to multiply big numbers, add exponents. So 3x to the third. Now I have to do 3x times 2x. 3 times 2 is 6. And I have two x's. Don't forget, each one of these x's has an x on it. And then finally 3x times negative 3. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. And now I only had one x out of both of those. Okay? One more example. It's a little longer and a little harder. The polynomial 2x squared minus 4 times the polynomial 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. Here I'm going to have to distribute the 2x squared to everything in the second parentheses, and then I'm going to have to go back and distribute the negative 4 to everything in the second parentheses again. And finally I would combine any like terms I have. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is take the 2x squared and multiply it by 3x squared. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to add the exponents on these, so that gives me x to the fourth. Then I do 2x squared times 2x. 2 times 2 is 4. X squared, and another x is x to the third. And finally, 2x squared times negative 1 is negative 2x squared. Now I have to do the negative 4 by everything in the second parentheses. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12, and then I have two x's still up there. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8x, and then negative 4 times negative 1 gives me a positive 4. Finally, I take those two answers and I'm going to combine any like terms. So now I'm back to adding and subtracting, so I can only put things that have like terms together. So my 6x to the fourth comes down because it has nothing else to go with it. My 4x to the third comes down like it is. I can put my x squared together, so I have negative 2x squared and negative 12x squared, so that gives me negative 14x squared. And then the negative 8x and the positive 4, I have nothing else to go with it. Alright, we'll do some more examples of these in class tomorrow.